Why wait for someone to help you when your site can have its own agents? Heidi's here to show us how you can spin up an agent on your SharePoint site in no time. Heidi
That's
is
right. That's right. Yeah, in the world of, AI and agentic AI and Copilot and everything, I thought it would be fun to just do a little bit of demo on SharePoint agents because I feel like these are the entry level ones. If you haven't worked with agents at all or anything agentic, if that word agentic scares you and you have SharePoint and you have an M365 Copilot license, I think this is definitely the place to start. So let's do a little bit of demo and let's just kind of talk through what we have for that today. So I'm going to start on just a SharePoint site. So this should look familiar to most people. And if you have, the one thing about SharePoint agents is there is one license requirement that you need to have an M365 Copilot license to be able to build a SharePoint agent. So when you're in a SharePoint site and you see the Copilot on the top right, that is the actual agent that is built with the site. So what I want to show you today is the ones that come built in natively in the site and then how you build your own. So if I go up here on the top right and I click on that Copilot icon, that opens up the side panel of the what we call the Copilot sidebar. If you've been using Copilot in your M365 applications, that's also consistent with most of those. It's usually on the top right side. So this opens up that sidebar that you can start asking questions about the site. And the cool thing about this is that all I did was I built a site and then it built the agent for me. Like I didn't have to do anything special for this. This actually comes built into your site. And then you'll see it has some starter prompts here about key highlights, FAQs, how can I use these resources? But I can just start asking questions about this site. So this one's like a SharePoint upgrade meeting site. This is just a demo site, but I know that I have meeting minutes on this site somewhere. And I know that I have an upgrade plan as well. So I'm just going to go and ask this site level agent, can you find me some meeting minutes? So I'm going to say, are there any meeting minutes on this site? So I'm just asking it that question in my natural language, which is a little bit more powerful than, a search query, like an enterprise search query, because I can use that my natural language with that. So you can see here that it says, yes, you've got 3 sets of meeting notes here. It even gives me the icons or the footnotes, we call them, with the numbers that I can actually click on those and it will take me to those meeting minutes that live on the site. I also have this references down here. If I click on that, it'll show me where they're living. And then I can click here and see, I actually have the link to the document library that they're living in on this site. So that was just one simple way that you can interact with that agent on your site. But I think that as you can kind of start to see, um, you're building an agent on a site. There's never just 3 documents on the site. This is a test site. So what if I want to, have a little bit more control over that of where the agent's actually pulling from? What if I get a million documents on this site? That agent's not going to have very good performance there. So how do we start to limit that scope and work with our own agents and customize what it's actually looking at? So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to close this side one and we're going to go into the documents library that's on the site. So this is where those meeting minutes are living right now. So I have actually have 2 libraries on the site. I have one with documents with meeting minutes, and then I have one called learning that also has documents as well. What I want to show you first is how to create that agent, what it's scoped to by default, and then how we build on that. So you can see I've got my meeting notes here. Right in the ribbon is actually the create an agent button. So I'm gonna click on that and my agent is done. Like that's all you need to do if you just want to build it on this library level here and you don't want to add any other libraries or anything into it. All you need to do is click the button and you can use it. But if you want to get a little bit more granular with it, you click on the edit button. So now here is where we can give our agent a name. I recommend that you name this very specific because this follows along too with how we've been doing things with Power Platform for years with like flows. Don't just call it workflow or task or something like that. Make sure that this is specific because this will be visible on your site level and I'll show you that after we get this agent built. But make sure it's got a unique name. So this is just a standard document library, but it's really my meeting minutes. So I'll just do my meeting minutes agent. And this as we're building these agents and starting to see, we don't just need one on a site, we can have multiple. That might also make you think about your SharePoint architecture. Maybe you do have various document libraries for each of those types of documents. So we have a meeting minutes document library, we have a meeting resources document library, and then they each have their own agent, because as if we going to bring that scope down a little bit, we're going to get better results because there's less things for the agent to kind of keep track of. So we got our meeting minutes agent. We can give it like a icon or a logo if we want to, and then you can give it a description. So I'm going to change this because that's a terrible description. I'll say this agent is scoped to meeting minutes. So then the next, if we scroll down, sorry, not yet. We're going to go back to the top. So now we can look at the sources. So click here on the sources tab. So what this is it's telling me that I have right now, I am looking at the SPO upgrade site, and I am looking at things in the documents library. So I mentioned that I had a second library on the site called Learning, and I want to grab documents from that library as well. I want to bring the two together. So you can add in another source here. So if I click on Add Document Libraries, Files and Folders, it's going to default to my site, but I can now change this. You can see I have another document library there called Learning. I also want to include that document. So I could select just that document, or I could just do the learning level, and then it will pull back everything that's in that library too. I'm going to hit select. So now you can see that I have those two libraries from that SPO upgrade site. You might be thinking, like, can I grab things from other sites in my tenant? Yes, you can. You can just start typing in your site name here, and then you can drill into those libraries and pull things from sites across your tenant as well. So then the last tab here is behavior. And this is how, if we're looking on the right side, it's showing you a preview of what the agent is going to show. This is where we customize that. So the welcome messaging would be this welcome message here. So if I delete that out, you'll see this preview change over here. I could say, ask me questions about meeting notes. And then I could customize my starter prompts. Like maybe there's some things that I use frequently, like summarize these meeting notes for some specific format, or something that I need to reformat and send out, or for a comms plan or something like that. I'm going to leave it alone for now. But then here you can give it instructions on how to respond. So I could say, please respond with a positive tone and technical in nature, or something like that. I think the best example of this that I can give is if you build it for like an onboarding site or something, you could say, be positive and don't say anything bad about my workplace or something like that. You don't want to put any negative vibes out there for new employees. So those are just kind of the caliber of instructions you can give that agent there. So now we've got, those are the basic out of the box things that we can change with that agent there. So I'm going to hit save and close. And then I'm going to close that out. And now if I refresh this, my agent should come up. I'm going to close this. I'm going to refresh this. So you see that it puts the agent in the documents library here. So I can interact with this in a couple different ways. I can click on this, and then it's going to open it up for me on the side panel here. So you see it's the welcome. Then now I can ask the agent questions. When I ask it questions here, you can see down in this text that says ask the meeting minutes agent a question about meeting minutes agent. It's telling me what the source is here. So I'm going to deselect that. And then if I wanted to say, like, I want to search all 3 weeks of meetings, or maybe I know that there's something in week 1 that I specifically want to know about, I can then just select that one and ask a question specifically about that week 1. Or if I deselect it, it's going to use the whole library as my scope of questions here. So I know that we submitted like a software integration request for this project, for this SharePoint Online upgrade. So now I can ask it some questions like that, like was a software integration request, or it's called the SIA, submitted for this project. So we're asking it again those questions about that contextual information that lives in those meeting notes, so that even if I was someone like a stakeholder that isn't like super involved in the project, I can then go in and look and just ask questions of the agent, like, tell me where we're at. We want to make sure that we did this, X, Y, and Z, so that the project is compliant with what we need to do. So then I can see here, it says, yes, the security impact assessment was submitted. It tells me when, and then also the request number that it was logged under. So this also brings up a good point too of, the agent can only return the information that is, it's only as good as what's in the notes. So that really made me think about how I'm taking notes when I'm in meetings, like, and you're uploading them to SharePoint. Make sure that they're consistent. You've got a good collection of things for it to draw from, because it can only be as good as those notes are. So think about using, if you're doing it in Teams meetings, think about using some standard prompts or something to collect meeting notes after the fact, so that you can then put it into SharePoint, and then your agent can work with that. So that was a simple query about how you can use that agent with these meeting notes. So I want to point out a couple other things. Um, the sharing piece of it. So I created this agent, and I see it out there, but that doesn't mean that everyone else can. So you need to share your agent with others for them to be able to use it. And also, others need to have either a M365 Copilot license to be able to use your agent, or there is a pay-as-you-go where they can do the pay-as-you-go for the users to actually be able to interact with that agent. But I think the easiest way is to just have that M365 Copilot license. But now I haven't explicitly shared this with anybody else. And when I say explicitly, I mean you click on the ellipsis here and do manage access. And then this is where I can see what these components are, who they're shared with specifically.
Mhm.
So what I could do here is set this to be an approved agent, and then it will be available at the site level for everyone to use. So to do that, I'm going to click on this. Remember the Copilot icon here? So this should look very similar to the beginning where we were at the site level. And now you can see that this is the agent that we were just interacting with. It's just a different way of getting to it. But now if I click on this ellipsis here, there is a set as approved. So then I can set that so that everyone else can use it that interacts with that site. What this does though is it's going to move it to the site assets library, and it will tell you that. So if I click on set as approved, it comes up with this warning that site owners can choose to approve them, and then they're available for site visitors in the agent picker. And I'll show you what that is next. I'm going to do set as an approved agent, and you're going to notice that agent disappears. So it'll be taken out of this library, and then it's put in the site assets library. So I'm going to click OK. You notice that went away. So now I would say the easiest way to get to this agent is to go to the home page, and then when this Copilot loads up here, it's opening it up for me. Now I have a choice. So I have this down arrow. I have this meeting, the SharePoint, the SPO upgrade is the one that's built into the site. The meeting minutes agent is the one I built. So now I can choose or change between them, and I can choose which agent I want to interact with. So that's why I mentioned that you need to have a very unique name, something explicit, so they know which agent they're talking to. And that's definitely a training point here. If a user comes to a site that has a ton of documents, they're asking specific questions about meeting minutes, you need to tell them to make sure they go and change to the meeting minutes agent to make sure it scopes down those answers. So that was, agents in 12 minutes. So
Well, that's too easy. This is super exciting, and I haven't looked at it for a little while, so I'm happy to see some of the changes and improvements that have kind of been rolling out. So very good. Um, let's see. It seems like I had a question. You made a really good point about, especially when you get into large SharePoint sites and having multiple agents. Um, if you have a document, if you have an agent that you create for a specific document library or a custom agent just for you, that is just for you until you have it like approved and shared and moved to the site assets folder. Is that correct?
yep. So
Share.
let's go back to the documents library. So if I had it in there, I have that .agent file in the library. If I share it with someone else, they can see it. If I went through the sharing methods, they can see it in this documents library. But for everyone to be able to interact with it, like at a site visitor level, that's when you put it in the approved, and then it's really at the site level. So if I shared it explicit with them, or they already had access to this documents library, they would be able to see it and interact with it.
Okay, and one more question. So let's say when you clicked on Copilot, it drops down the site agents. If you have your own agent in there that you have not shared with everyone, does it show up in there?
It should show up for me. Yes, it would show in my
Okay.
menu
Oh,
of agents.
okay.
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. This is amazing.
I think it's a super, like I mentioned, it's a super easy way to get started with agents if the word agentic scares you. It's a really easy way to get in there and just start building them with the one click. You don't even have to customize it. Just do the one click, you drop it in your site, and just start asking questions and see what comes of it. Build on those skills from there.
Yeah, I think it's probably the easiest way to get started.
Absolutely. Yep. That's all we got for today.
All right. Thank you very much, Heidi. This was fantastic.